Hey guys, I'm David with MediaUnlock.net, and today we're going to be doing the editing of the photos that we shot with the 18 to 55mm lens in the Canon T3i. I'm just going to walk you through the editing process. A few things to mention. One, really sorry the window's blown out, but this is just the fastest and easiest setup I could do, but mostly we're going to be focusing on the screen while I'm talking. Two, I'm going to be using the Wacom tablet. So I find that this is very helpful when editing photography, and I even use this for some of the video editing. We'll also be using the Google Nik Collection. So that is a plugin system for the Adobe Photoshop. And so if you don't have it, go download it. I think you can get like a free 30-day trial so you can follow along. There'll also be a link down below to download the few photos that we're going to be editing today. This is kind of going to be a longer process in the editing, so this may take 15, 20, 30 minutes to go over the few photos I'm going to edit. So again, we're going to be using Lightroom, exporting out of Lightroom, going into Photoshop, edit in Photoshop, and then coming up with our final product. Let's get started. So we've got Photoshop opened up here, and this is the first photo I want to work with, and this is Linda. This is the photo that we did where we did not use the ambient light. We actually used the flash, the 430EX2. Now we're not going to do a lot of editing in Lightroom. I really like to do a lot of my detailed editing in Photoshop. So here we're just going to do some basic exposures and play around with our whites and blacks, and then a few other things. I also do all of my sharpening in Photoshop, and I'll show you why I think it's a better system for doing a lot of your sharpening in Photoshop. So the first thing we want to do is I kind of want to bring the exposure up just a tad bit. If you ever need to go back, so let's say if I just do this and I don't like it, if you hit Control-Z, it's going to take you back a step, which is really nice. So we're just going to bring up the exposure just a tad bit. We'll bring up the contrast a tad bit as well, and we will bring down our blacks a little bit to crush those blacks. And that's about all I really want to do here. The white balance is kind of where I want it, and I could change that if I didn't. We're actually probably going to change the white balance on this second photo we're going to edit, where Mark's a little warm, and we're probably going to change the white balance on him. And the next thing I want to do is just want to scroll down, and I want to hit Enable Profile Correction, and I want to hit Remove Chromatic Abrasion. So just in case there's any of that, I think with the 18 to 55 you can get it, and you'll see it on the edges. Let's see if we can turn it off. You see any? You see it maybe a little bit here, and you can see how it fixes itself when we turn that on and off right around the edges of her body. So you get that with cheaper lenses and a smaller sensored camera a lot of times. And then far as sharpening goes, we just want to turn that off. We're not going to use any sharpening here. And that's about it. So now what we're going to do is we're going to export right into Photoshop. So we're going to right click here, go down to export. I'm going to walk you through my export settings here. Let's try this again. And we want to go to export. So I've already got the folder selected that I want to export into, and I've already exported this photo into it, but we're going to actually do it. The next thing I want to do is I want to export it as a PSD, and I want to do it as an 8-bit. You can do it as a 16-bit, especially if you have a slower computer. The 8-bit's probably going to work a lot better for you. So under File Settings, we're just going to make it a PSD, or you could go TIFF if you'd like, and then the 8-bit, and then we're going to scroll all the way to the bottom, and we're going to open in Photoshop. So when we export this will export out of Lightroom into a folder, and then from that folder, Photoshop's going to open up the photo. So once we hit export, and then like I said, I've already got the file, I've already kind of done some work on the file, but we're just going to overwrite that, and it's going to export, and as you can see, Photoshop is now opening for us. All right. As you can see, very simple here. And now what we want to do is I want to do some basic cropping. I want to fix a few blemishes on her body, and then we're going to go in and edit in the Nik Collection. So the first thing is let's make a copy layer here. All right, and let's go on and do just a little bit of cropping. I could go in and fix all this over here to the left, but really for time's sake we're just going to crop it out, and we've got a little bit of dark here. Again, this could be fixed as well, but we will just kind of crop out that darker, and then we'll hit enter, and there's the photo. So now we're going to zoom in on her a little bit, And we're just going to pull out the spot healing brush here, and we're just going to, and as you can see with the Wacom tablet, it just makes it so much easier for me to just go in and fix these little blemishes really quick. Or anytime you may have sensor dust, which you're going to get a lot if you're shooting at a higher f-stop. It's almost impossible to have all that sensor dust cleaned out of your camera unless you just get it done the day before. So you're just going to need to go in, and you can do this to get rid of sensor dust. Again, we're not going to go too detailed here. We're just going to run through her body real quick and grab anything that I think that needs to be fixed here. And there we go. And then let's see, I think she's got a few things on her neck, her shoulder over here. So again, we're just going to fix these. No one's really going to be able to tell the difference. And if you wanted to get detailed, we could kind of fix some of those lines on her neck. You know, if we were actually trying to make this more of a professional beauty portrait shot, then we'd go in and really clean up the skin, airbrush it in so it has more of a pop to it. But we're just doing a basic edit here because I don't want to spend an hour trying to show you guys how to airbrush and everything. So as you can see, we're just going in and just fixing everything. Now, like her nose here is a little light here, you know, off the reflection of the flash. Let's see, as you can see, that kind of fixes that so her nose is not over bright. And we could go in and fix it right here in the cheek. We're going to fix this a little bit here, but we're going to bring all this back in with the Nik Collection as well. We've got some white spots, but I kind of like some of them, but you could just go in and kind of draw them out if you didn't want them. So let's zoom back out to 100. And now you can see we've kind of fixed that. Now we're going to move into the Google Nix software and just do some basic editing and really make this photo pop. So we'll go to filter, and again, this should be a free download for like 30 days, I believe, so you can just test it out. And we're going to go into Color Effects Pro, and we're going to open that up, and it's going to give us a new layer once we export out of here. And so the first thing that we want to do is the tonal contrast. So before we jump right in that, let's zero everything out. So we're just going to pick each one of these, and we're just going to zero it out. So for the tonal contrast, and we're going to bring our highlights down a little bit, and you're going to see that it's going to even, like her cheekbone here is going to even out a little bit. If we turn it on and off, you can see a little bit of a difference there. So we're going to bring that down even a little bit more. And again, you can kind of, it's not a huge difference. I don't know if you guys are seeing a major difference here. We're going to bring our midtones up. We're going to start making this pop. Now, if you notice, it really makes the background pop, which I really, really like. It brings, I don't want the background to pop too much because I don't want it to take away from her, but it also makes her pop. Now, there are ways that we could just really forcibly make her pop, and we're going to do that with some of the sharpening tools and stuff that we're going to use. Now, we could bring our shadows up a little bit if we wanted to, and you can see, or we could bring them way down. And it doesn't do a huge, doesn't make a huge difference. So we're just going to bring it up to about 28%, and the midtones right at. We could probably bring the midtones up just a tad bit more. And then we're going to add a filter. And if you notice, I've got my favorites. If you go to all, you can kind of go through and see all the different options that you have here. And I haven't even used probably 50% of these. These are the ones that I use the most. And I just hit the little star, and that will just add it to my favorites. So we'll go back. Make sure though, each time you are adding an effect or hitting add filter, because if you don't, and then you go over and pick your filter, if you don't hit that add filter, what happens is it's going to override the filter that you just used, and you're going to have to, again, we can just hit Control Z and step back, which is really nice. So we could go into Pro Contrast here, and we can kind of work with that a little bit. We're just going to probably just do Dynamic Contrast. And that's maybe a little much, so we'll bring that down. And if you notice, we can darken it up, but I don't really want to darken the scene up at all, because I'm going to work on her dress a little bit later. And again, we could do correct color contrast. Again, I like where her dress is at, so if we just kind of turn this off, just makes the whole picture as a whole pop a little bit. So then we're going to add another filter. And we're going to do Detail Extractor and work on her eyes a little bit. As you notice that this is for me, this is way too much. You may like this look, but this just looks too fake for me. And again, we're using a cheaper lens and camera body, so the quality of the photo it hurts because of that, and I really don't like it. So we're gonna zero these out again, and we're going to work on her eyes a little bit. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna zoom in, we're gonna go up to her eyes, okay? And we're gonna hit this little plus guy right here, and we're gonna put him right here, and then we're going to bring him down. And just a little bit more. And we just wanna focus on really the eyes, as you can see. And so what it's going to do is it's gonna add kind of you're gonna pretty much do work within this circle that I just made, and it will kind of blend it into the rest of the shot. So it will look natural, or it won't look where if you just fix the eye but everything else around it just doesn't look right. So, and we'll go over to Detail Extractor, and we're just gonna add that. We're gonna bring that up some, and we're gonna bring our contrast way up. And we're gonna darken those eyes and make those eyes pop a lot more. Now, I believe if we hit Option, and we can make a duplicate of that, as you can see, just hold down Option, and now both eyes are going to get the same effect here. We could add a little saturation into it. As you can see, we could pull that back, and yeah, we'll add a little warmth, and we'll just hit these control points. As you can see, these control points are here. Maybe a little more Detail Extractor, and then you can bring your opacity down depending on how much of the effect. You see how it kind of just feels soft here, and then we kind of just add a little, sharpening. And what we'll do is we'll hit zoom again, and we'll come back out, and I think we're good in here. I'm happy with what we got going on. And we really only got 2 more steps for this photo. 2 or 3 more steps that I want to work on. So we're going to make a copy of this layer. Just drag and drop it. And the next thing I want to do is I want to fix hair, because I don't like that little extra hair here. So we're going to go grab this brush, and we're going to start fixing the hair. Just this one little spot I don't like, and it's going to look a little funky at first. And we'll zoom back out so you can kind of see what I mean by a little funky. Okay, so if we zoom back out, it kind of looks, as you notice, I'm not liking how that looks. It doesn't blend into the shot very well, but don't worry. We're gonna be able to fix that really easy. So now what we're gonna do is we're just gonna grab this, we're gonna pick a color that's around that general area. We don't wanna pick the actual color from where we were healing it. Pick this color here, and we're gonna hit B for brush, and then we're just gonna paint in that color. And again, we've got our flow at 6%. We might bring our flow up. Now flow has to do with how deep the color is. So if I bring the flow up to 100, see how it's just kind of taking over the shot, and that's just gonna be hard to fix, right? I just want, it's almost like opacity in retrospect to how solid the color is. I don't want that, so we're just gonna hit Control Z, and then if you need to go back, Control Option Z will start taking you back more. So I don't want a heavy flow. I want a real small flow, like around 5–6%, and we're just gonna draw in some of that gray, and then we're gonna come in and fix that. So again, if we zoom back out, we still doesn't look good. So now we'll go back to the spot healing brush. We'll enlarge that, and we'll let it kind of, we'll go in and kind of correct all of that. And now when we zoom out, you may just get a little bit more. And if we zoom all the way back out to the main photo, you really can't see a large difference. It doesn't look bad. And it fixes kind of the hair there. Again, the issue was that extra little bit of hair coming out. I really didn't like that. All right, so we will make another layer, keep building on these layers. Actually, instead of making another layer, we are going to make a, yes, we're going to do one more layer here. So layer copy 2, we're going to go to filter, and we're going to go to high pass. Okay, so high pass is going to help with the sharpening of your photo. Now, you don't really want to go over a 5. 3 to 4 is usually where I stick. I've figured I like the 4.2 the best. So, and then as you see, we have, she's kind of all grayed out, right? So we're just going to hit overlay here and fix that. Once we go to overlay, now it's just sharpened the whole photo. So if we turn this on and off, you can see the difference. And if you look around her neck, her like necklace here, you're going to see that, her eyes, her face. So I don't really want to sharpen the background. I really want her to be the focal point here. So what we're going to do is we're going to add a mask right down here. We're going to, if you're still grayed out down here over to the left, you can hit D, and that will bring that back to its normal color. And then we can hit X, and we want to be on black here. And we're going to hit brush, and make sure that you're on the actual mask here, and then we're just going to start getting rid of the sharpness on the background. So if we make sure we're on the brush here, and we're going to use a full flow of 100, and if you can see, I'm painting all that background back into its original look, not so sharp. And you can kind of see, there we go, and we can kind of see what we're doing. And again, we want 100% flow because I want the background to look the way that it originally looked before we added the high pass sharpening filter, right? So now what we're going to do is we're just going to zoom back out to get the full picture, and we're just going to go through and paint all this. Take the brush, and we're just going to add that back in. So she's going to be the only thing that's sharp, right? And again, it doesn't have to be pinpoint. If you want to take the time, you know, I'm not going to spend a lot of extra time with the sharpening. Again, make sure that you've got the brush tool selected, because that's what's going to go in and kind of take away that the sharpening. And so if we hit X, then that will bounce between. So if we hit X and we notice it's white over here, it's actually going to pull that away, and it's going to do the opposite, right? But if we hit X again and we're on black, then it's going to pull the sharpening out. Again, we're using 100% flow because we want the background to look the same exact it did before we did the high pass filter. So, and we're just gonna, again, draw that back in. We want her to be sharp. And we could do this, we could do the same thing if we wanted to add a Gaussian blur or another blurred effect that will allow for you to add even more of a blur around her if you wanted to. But I like the amount of focus that's on the background. I just don't want it to be super sharp. I want her to be the reason that things are popping out. So, and you don't have to get too fine point. I'm not going to, but if you have the time, you know, take your time, and you know, we could Command Z, Control Z, we could go in and get real fine with it, but I'm not going to get too fine on her. Just kind of an outer edge around her. And then we'll bring the size of the brush back up. And just kind of pull that sharpening out. All right, so this isn't perfect. If I was doing this for a client, I may put considerably more time into making sure that I was able to pull all of that focus out and just really focus on having her the sharp image. So if we turn, as you notice, she's much sharper, but the background stays the same, which is what I want. She's nice and sharp. She's what I want. She looks the way I want her to. So the next and last step we're going to do is we're going to make one more layer. And we'll go to layers, new layer. And we're gonna do a little dodge and burning, very easy technique. And this is something that you can decide to do this or not. I could take it or leave it what I'm gonna use the dodge and burn for in this picture, but I just wanted to show you guys how you could use this when you're editing and we've got a little bit of different light and you wanna add or take away light in the photo. So we're gonna go down to overlay and we're just gonna click on 50% gray and we're gonna click OK. And now we're just going to hit the brush tool again. And we're gonna hit D. If you remember, D is gonna bring our black and white back in. So as you can see when I hit D, and then if we want to darken it up, see how we darken that? If we wanna darken this up, we're on black. If we wanna pull that back out, we'll hit X again and pull that back out. Now we're going in a wider direction, more lighter. Okay? Again, our flow's at 100. We want to bring our flow down because we don't need, I mean, you can see how much effect that white has, right? So then if we brought our flow down to right around 5, and I'm just gonna hit 5%. See how much less it is? It's not really nearly as white and as heavy as this is. So now we're gonna hit Control, Option, and we're just gonna get back to what it originally looked like. So we've got our flow at 5%. We're gonna go, we wanna darken this area up. So if I wanted to darken to kind of even this dress out, I could just go in and just kind of darken it up a little bit if you feel like it's a little overexposed. And as you can see, and we don't want to put it in the darker spots. We want to bring it into the wider, the exposed that has the most light, the more light. And we may need to bring this down to be a little more pinpoint. And then we can kind of darken our dress and try to make it look a little more even if we wanted to. Now this is an option that you can use or not, but I just kind of wanted to show it to you. I like where this is at here, but again, you could go in and we could kind of even that dress out if we wanted to. So I'm really happy where we're at. Another thing that we could do with that is we could go in and try to even the face out a tad bit more if we wanted to. As you can see, we don't want to do it too much because you don't want it to be too noticeable. But we can even the light on her face so it's not overexposed if you have spots. Now I like where the light is on her arms, the way it hits her arms, and it's really nice and soft, and the way I like a photo to look. Right after you come out of the Nik Google Collection plugin for Color Effects Pro here, what you could do is you could go into the opacity and bring it down. If you just felt like this was too much and you didn't like it, you could actually just bring it down and fix it. If you overdid it, you can use the opacity to pull it down and even it out to where you want it. Now again, I did the editing in the plugin the way I wanted to, and I didn't have to worry about that, but that is an option if you wanted to do that. So the picture really looks good. It's where I wanted it to look. We could pull up the original on Lightroom here. Just go back to the original photo here. And you can kind of see, the difference in what we've been able to accomplish with just a few items. So we'll tap this back out to go back out. But there's this picture really pops the way her eyes, her face really looks. It really pops much more using this effect, using these techniques that I'm showing you. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna save this. I have a folder that I'm keeping it in, and we will save it as a JPEG. And this is an edit I did earlier just to go over it and make sure it looked the way I wanted it to. And I could name it just like whatever, so we could do edit /1, so it's the first edit, and JPEG, and maximum quality, and there we go. Very simple way to do some editing. So now we're pretty much gonna do the same thing, except that we're gonna work with Mark's photo. So go back to Lightroom, Bring Lightroom back in here, we'll pick Mark's photo. So we're gonna do a few different things with Mark's photo. First thing is, it's a little warm, so I wanna bring a little bit, I wanna make it just a tad bit cooler. It's a tad bit dark too, so I'm gonna bring this up. We're gonna get his face a little more evened out because it is a tad bit overexposed here in the midtones. And we'll bring the contrast up a tad bit. We'll bring our blacks down just a little bit. Maybe -10, make it like 12 or 13. There we go. We could bring those blacks down even more, actually. To like -34 is a little much. -23. And then, again, we'll make sure that we have our sharpening turned off, because I really like to do my sharpening in Photoshop if at all possible. And we want to just remove the chromatic abrasion and enable profile correction. And we will right-click, go to Edit, Export here, and again, as I mentioned earlier, I've already got my export folder pre-selected, 8-bit, and we're going to send it right into Adobe Photoshop as soon as it finishes exporting it as a PSD. So we're just going to overwrite the one that I did earlier, and we're going to bring it in. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to do a little cropping. I don't believe in cropping unless you need to. Now I could go in and fix this green branch that's kind of coming to the shot. Actually, I think it was a wreath, but I'm just going to crop it in. I don't mind. It looks okay, this tight for me. And then we're just going to make another layer and go in and fix spots. So I don't like these little white spots everywhere. And you could just clone it if you wanted to, but I'm not worried about. So just go in here, and we're just gonna fix some of these white spots. He's got a few blemishes on the neck, and we could go in and fix some wrinkles under the eyes. And we'll just bring this tool to real small, and we're just going to pull out these wrinkles right here because we just want to focus on just the lines, the wrinkle lines. We really don't want to do anything else. And that looks pretty good. Make this a little bit larger. I know he's got some white spots here on his jacket, so we're just going to go in and get rid of them. And having this Wacom tablet just really makes fixing stuff like this so much easier. All right, one more little spot on his cheek I want to get rid of. It looks pretty good. You can get rid of the chin dimple right there if you wanted. I really like that though, so I want to leave that in. And we'll make another layer. As again, if you notice, I keep making layers so that I can go back and fix things and I don't have to worry about losing. And like this did not come out as well as I would have liked it, just using the spot healing brush. So what we can do is we can go over to the cloning brush, hit Option or Alt, get this, and then kind of go in and fix that. Now if I took some more time I could make that just an even line, but just did that real quick just to show you. All right, I'm happy with the way this picture looks. We made another layer. We'll go to Filter, Other, or Nik Collection, Color Effect Pro, and we're pretty much going to use the same tools that we used last time. We'll do the tonal control. Again, we're going to zero everything out. And we're just going to kind of play with the highlights. We want to bring those down. You're going to notice that his forehead's going to kind of get a little bit less overexposed. We're going to bring our midtones up a tad bit to make the shot itself pop. We could bring the shadows up if we wanted to a little bit. A little too much. If you notice, that makes his nose right there look a tad bit too dark. So we'll bring that down. And we'll probably put it around like 30% or so. Then again, always remember to hit Add Filter, and we'll do Pro Contrast. We'll take a look at that. And do we want to bring that up? How much do we want to bring this? As you notice, it's going to throw our color off. So just a tad bit. And you notice his face is getting blown out, and it's kind of just bringing too much light into the shot. So we want to leave that around, and just a little bit of dynamic contrast. Again, if we go too high, we're going to get too kind of bright. So just a tad bit of dynamic contrast. Again, we could focus on, say I wanted to just focus on everything but his face. I wanted to leave his face alone. Okay. So we would do that. And then everything that we did would be, his face wouldn't really be affected by it. So if we wanted to bring in this a little bit more, make the reds pop a little bit, we could do that, add a little more dynamic. Pretty much his face is going to stay the same. It's going to blend it in, and we're able to work on the outside of this circle. Again, we could go in and work with opacity if we wanted to and have his face affected a little bit. But I don't. I want to leave the opacity at 0. I want to leave his face as is. Now we can add another filter. We could go into detail extractor. And honestly, this doesn't look bad. We're going to zero out and play around with it a little bit anyways. So with Linda, for me, it did not look as nice using the detail extractor that much. But with Mark, bringing in the detail extractor a little bit is kind of what I want to do. Maybe a little much on the contrast. We'll bring the detail extractor back a tad bit, and we'll see if we can bring up the saturation a little bit. And that looks really good to me. And this is probably all I want to do to this photo for now. I might have brought the saturation up a tad bit, so back to 6 is a lot better. And I like the way this photo really looks now. So we're gonna hit OK. And we're going to go right into the sharpening technique. We're going to go into getting it sharper. As soon as the Nik Collection exports here. All right, make another layer. Filter high pass, other high pass. Again, with this, I don't want to over sharpen it, so we're probably going to bring down this to about 3.5. Overlay, and that looks pretty good, but I don't want the background to be sharp. I want to kind of fix that issue. So again, we're going to make a mask, make sure that we're on black over here, make sure we're on the brush, and make sure that we're here. And our flow is at 5. We want to bring our flow up to 100% for this, because we don't want any sharpening to happen with the background. And we'll just do this real quick. So we'll leave Mark just sharpened. So much easier when you're using a pen tool on a tablet like this Wacom system. I know I've kind of mentioned it a few times, but it really helps with the editing aspect, especially for photos. It's so much faster than a mouse, in my opinion. It takes a little getting used to, but once you've got it down, it's very nice. All right, so that looks good. And let's turn it on and off. As you notice, kind of really makes the zippers on his jacket pop a little bit more, makes his eyes pop a little bit more, and it just all around has a nicer look. Now we could go in and do some dodging and burning, but there isn't really much I want to dodge and burn here. I really like the photo as is right now. We could maybe work on the forehead and try to bring down the highlights a little bit, but again, I'm pretty satisfied with that as well. So we will just go to File, Save As, Edit to. Make sure it is a JPEG. Save. Boom. And that's it. That's some basic editing techniques using your Canon T3i, your crop sensored camera, and an 18 to 55 millimeter lens. I really think that the photos came out really good using your kit stuff, your lower budget amateur style camera and lens. You know, so don't let that hold you back. You can still get great quality pictures. You can still get out there and probably easily get paid work using these cameras. It's just learning how to use them as well as how to edit, you know, how to edit the photos. You know, there's a whole workflow, and if you can learn it and get it down, you don't have to feel like, oh, I've got to have this lens or this new camera body. Of course, it's nicer to get newer, better lenses and camera bodies, but it's not a must if you don't have the money right off the bat. And you don't want to get in debt doing it, because if you get in a bunch of debt trying to get a bunch of nice camera equipment and then you can't get work, then you're just sitting there trying to pay off debt, and that can be very frustrating. So hopefully these three videos have really helped you out. I'm going to put a link now for part 1 and part 2 if you're just watching the editing. If you've got any questions, feel free to leave a comment or email us at mediaunlocked101@gmail.com. I'll do my best to help you out. It's a lot of fun putting this video together for you guys. And of course, I will add a link down below. If you click on that, I should be able to set up a Dropbox for you guys, and you can download both of these photos in their RAW form or JPEG form, and you will be able to edit them along with me. So you can watch the video and just kind of edit along with me. And if you get lost or confused, or I skipped over something I shouldn't have, or didn't make a clear explanation of what I was doing, please leave me a comment or shoot me a message, and I will do my best to answer that for you. But thanks for stopping in and checking out these videos. You have a wonderful day, and of course, as always, we'll catch you next time. Hey guys, if you'd like to check out our website where we have all kinds of fun and exciting blogs, videos, and extra information that isn't on our YouTube page, click right here. If you'd like to talk to us or contact us and kind of take a look at all the different stuff that we have going on, we've kind of funneled it all through our Facebook. You can hit our Facebook page right here and follow us or like us. Now, if you like to look at cool pictures and behind the scenes stuff, we do that on Instagram right here. So go on and follow us on Instagram. And of course, we got our cute little bird right here, Mr. Twitter, and you can follow us as we do our short tweets.